Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Scumdog's Kennel. I have another cryptid corner for us tonight. But while we wait for people to gather in the chat, let me go off and show some artwork off from my own upcoming graphic novel, Scumdogs. So while we wait for people to gather in the chat, let me go off and show some artwork off from my own upcoming graphic. There we go. Feel free to leave me a few chats. I'd love to hear from you guys. And here is my extreme 90s cover. This cover I did to basically bring you back to the days of the 90s with the comic books that were coming out back then. This cover has all my characters in my graphic novel Scumdogs in it, or rather, most of them. It has the Scumdogs is a parody comic book. I parody the cartoons we all know and love when we were growing up. Now, the Scumdogs themselves, they're supervillains out to take over the world. You see, they used to compete in sports known as the Scumdog sporting events held with superhuman monsters as the pro athletes. See, they're called scum and dogs because they traded in their humanity for superpower, or rather to become superhumanly powerful monsters, to gain superpowers. So they traded in they became monsters for fame and glory, so they're not exactly the nicest guys around. You get the idea. But what happens when they get banned from sports? Well, they decide to take over the world. Here you can see the Scumdogs fighting their arch enemies in the Space Forces, notably my main characters, Deathmug and Buick Starpoon. Deathmug is the leader of the Scumdogs. He's an arrogant dictator out to rule the world. And he's based on various villains from 80s cartoons, while Buick Starpoon is basically a parody basically a G.I. Joe parody, mostly of Duke from G.I. Joe, but he's also a parody, if you see his pink pompadour hair, of the space opera hero character and stuff like that. Like Zap Brannigan or Captain Kirk from Star Trek, Captain Kirk, Buzz Lightyear or Buck Rogers. And because he's a G.I. Joe parody, he based mostly of being a hard-nosed military type of character. He's a parody of those kinds of guys, which means he never admits he's wrong. And even though when he knows he's doing something wrong, he never admits that he's doing wrong, so he continues to do it anyway. He's a bloody moron in that fashion. Now, let's see. Deathmug is a parody of various villains from 80s cartoons, notably the villains of G.I. Joe, the leaders of Cobra. Like Cobra Commander, he's got a silver mask. He's also got a skull face like Skeletor from He-Man, and he's gold like Serpentor from G.I. Joe as well. Gold like Serpentor, another leader of Cobra, and he's purple like the Shredder from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Now, there are other members of Buick Starpoon's team in the Space Forces on this cover. This guy over here with the mohawk, his name is Roadhog. He's another member of Buick Starpoon's team in the Space Forces. His military specialty is that he's an army guy. Well, he's a parody of G.I. Joe, and all of them have military specialties and stuff like that. So you get the idea and stuff like that. So Roadhog's military specialty is that he's an army guy. You get the idea. Now, this bald guy with a gun down here in the blue uniform, his name is Beach Pounder. His military specialty is that he's a Marine, just another Marine. While this guy back here in the red uniform, driving that vehicle and stuff like that, firing his weapons, his name is Blast Tank. His military specialty is that he's a heavy vehicle specialist, a tanker. Now, this cover is one of 3 different variant covers you'll be able to back when my Indiegogo goes live, so you have that as well to look forward to. It's not live yet on Indiegogo, folks, but I'm still working on the book every day. When it's up, go and back it. Go back Scumdogs. All right. Girl Friday. Girl Friday is another member of the Wild Rangers. That's the name of Buick Starpoon's team in the Space Forces. She's Buick Starpoon's second in command. Well, she was assigned to the Wild Rangers by her superiors in the Space Forces, because while the Wild Rangers fight the Scumdogs and save the universe, they're also complete idiots who destroy stuff. So to head off criticism, her superiors in the Space Forces assigned Girl Friday to work as Buick Starpoon's second in command, to basically babysit him. And she hates him. She hates her job because she thinks her career in the military is over, because she's just a sitter now. Or just a minder. Oh, by the way, folks, hit that like button for me. It really helps me fight the algorithm so more people can see my content and my graphic novel Scumdogs comes out to you all the sooner. As well as hit that bell and hit the part of the bell that gives you all future notifications. And please go share this video out on social media. Share it out on Twitter. Share it out on Facebook. Now we'll be looking at Deathmug's Henchman. Because, in all 80s cartoons, the main villain of the cartoon would have henchmen. And these are my henchmen. Now, the blue guy with the top hat is Murdermouth. And the pink guy down here is Sloppy. There are a couple of idiots that do whatever Deathmug says, but they're complete morons. But they're going to be fun when you read about them. That's pretty good here. Now, let's go look at Hair Metal Doctor. Hair Metal Doctor is a parody of Dr. Mindbender from G.I. Joe. Dr. Mindbender is a mad scientist, but my mad scientist here has been crossed over with a hair metal musician. That's Hair Metal Doctor. He thinks of all the gadgets and machines the Scumdogs use to try and take over. He does it while being Hair Metal Doctor. And here we have Miss Breasty Melons, who's a parody of the Baroness. Unlike the Baroness, she's a party girl. Now, the Hair Metal Doctor pinup and the Miss Breasty Melons pinup will be included with other pinups in my graphic novel when you back it on Indiegogo. But I will also get these pinups out to you on t-shirts from Crypto Fashion as soon as I'm able to make them. Okay, folks? Now I looked at that. Then let's look at some cryptids tonight and having some fun. Let's see. Over here, let me go over here. Before we do anything else, let me go to Indiegogo and show you some new Indiegogos. Warlash Cold Metal has made $81 already. It's another Indiegogo up. The Sword and the Sorcerer sequel has made $405 with 27 days left. Alien Alamo has made $90,241. That's good right there. Let's see. There's Viking Wolf 1 has only 4 hours left. That's not bad. Let's see. Let's go to over here. Let me see if I can't find some other stuff to look at. Looks like Ned Lord of the Pit, A Comedy of Terrors 2 has made a 311. Not bad. Not bad. First Wave Cyberfrog action figures has made $306,000, while Style Century Book 2, Belly of the Beast, has made $15,220 already. Let's see what else. Other books that are up. The Blue Bombshell has made $21,750. Let's see. Let's see. I could look at this. Titan Mouse 2, Titan Mouse of Might Volume 2 has made $15,472. Not bad. Blade Devil Goes to the Past graphic novel has made $278.65. All right, that's not too bad. Ooh, Knife Hand's the new Drawbreakers book has made $64,540. It's still funding in demand. That's good right there. You can back this book for $25. You also have a Ninjas 2-pack at Knife Hand, Blind Spot, and Rock and Roll Ninja for $50. And you can get the Jawbreakers 4-pack for $100. Knife Hand is a mutant ninja, the ability to generate energy blades from his hands that can cut through anything. As a boy, he was kidnapped and held for ransom. His wealthy father refused to pay the kidnappers, so they sold him to a ninja clan. After years of brutal training, he took the power of the Knife Hand. He has the power of the Knife Hand and went AWOL, searching for his father to get revenge, but the ninja clan never stopped hunting for him, so he joined the Jawbreakers in order to use them as a gang to protect him. His disdain for his teammates, they don't know about it, and as much as he hates them, he needs them, so when they're kidnapped, he has to go and save them. It looks like a great-looking book. This Knife Hand is going to be 22 pages long with a backup story that's going to be known as The Garrison. And the artwork in this book looks like Metal Gear Solid, and it looks awesome. Yeah, it looks very nice. Now, The Garrison is basically a story in which, this isn't G.I. Joe or Cobra, but you have characters that remind you of G.I. Joe and Cobra. And in this book, they have to team up save their comrades from another terrorist organization. And it looks pretty good with the artwork. That's The Garrison in Knife Hand. It's going to be a good-looking book. Now, let me go over here. I have other books to look at. So, Misty America 1, 800, 11 days ago. Andy Smith's First Man 2 Learning Curve has made $13,689. Dang, there's Alien Alamo has made $90,000. That's pretty good there. Ooh, Chrono Mechanics has made $53,870. Let's take a look at this. Chrono Mechanics is a self-contained 60-page PG-13 comic. The retrofitted action-adventure time travel story follows a team of highly diverse and ego-driven repairmen as they race through the time to keep the Earth's erratically merging timelines from imploding. To compound their problems is a self-centered workphobe new recruit who may be the one thing they can't fix before the whole Earth falls apart. We hope we will side civilian adventures of Team 9.2 of Sector 7. The best team of knuckle-busting working-class Joes to ever punch a time card. So climb aboard a time machine and come read the Chrono Mechanics. It looks good. All right. Let's take a look at this.
Hi all, I'm Archie Bear, and I'm a comic book artist. During my 35-year career, I have worked on many comic titles for DC, Marvel, and Image Comics, such as Adventures of Superman, Ultimate Spider-Man, X-Men, Cable, Spawn, Youngblood, Super Sons, and others too numerous to mention. Now, I'm rocking the indie scene, and that all began with my graphic novel, Black and White. And thanks to people like you, we made that campaign a huge success. Now, I'm hoping that together, we can do it again, as I switch creative gears to want to do something new and exciting with a style created just for this Chrono Mechanics title. At this point, you may be saying, sounds good, but what is Chrono Mechanics about? Well, I'm glad you asked. This wildly funny sci-fi action-adventure graphic novel focuses on the best repair team to ever turn a wrench. I'm talking about Team 9.2 of Sector 7. Chrono Mechanics is about the brave, knuckle-busting son-of-a-gun repairmen who fix the big machine known as time. And yes, when I say machine, you heard right. What keeps our time running smoothly is an ancient, nuts-and-bolts cosmic clockwork machine that is as huge as the galaxy itself. So join, a prehistoric businessman with anger issues. Caravaggio, frustrated Renaissance artist and inventor. Zen, a child deity with the power of the gem. And a potential new recruit, Doug, a 70s rock god and slacker with crazy dumb luck. As they don their work suits and power up to repair a rip in time, will our slacker step up to become a Chrono Mechanic and take his place as the fourth member of Team 9.2 of Sector 7? Chrono Mechanics, they do more before the dawn of time than most people do all day.
All right. That was Chrono Mechanics, folks. Looks good, huh? Now let me go over here. We got Cryptids to look at now. So, where to start? More not deer sightings encounters in Minnesota, Kentucky, and Georgia. After my appearance on Coast to Coast AM, received and was referred to a few accounts of not deer sightings encounters. What are these? What are these things? I heard you tonight in Coast to Coast with George Norrie and not deer mentioned. It's brought a memory that will never leave my mind. Last year, about late August, September, I was biking from work. I worked second shift from noon to midnight. I live about 5 miles from work and had my driver's license suspended for 3 months, so I would bike to and from work daily. One night while rounding a corner, I saw 3 pair of glowing eyes. They were glowing because the reflection of my headlight and my bicycle. They looked like deer, but their necks were awkward and long, and their angle, they oops, yeah, yeah. They looked like deer, but their necks were awkward and long angle. They were standing. It appeared that their necks went straight down into their back, into their legs. They almost looked like bipedal creatures just staring at me. They did not run away or seem to fear me. I had an uneasy feeling the entire ride home. They had heard, heard of deer, but were directly facing. They had head of deer, but were directly facing me the entire time. Right home, huh? Just staring as I passed. I'll never forget how strange that was or how strange they looked. I am 34 years old. I've been around deer all my life and a woodsman, hunter, and outdoor enthusiast. I've never experienced behavior like that or seen a deer from that long of a neck with that long of a neck, huh? This was in between the towns of Meeple and some other places. I've never, someplace in Minnesota. I've never heard of not deer until tonight. And I had no idea that there had been other sightings of strange deer until your appearance tonight on Coast to Coast. I know what I saw was not normal. I thought this whole time I was crazy. Have there been any reports you know of or in that area? Thank you for your time and appreciate what you do. Last night, January 2020, a friend of mine, my boyfriend and I were on your way back into town from a little day trip. We're on the highway at around midnight, and we just see a creature that looked like it was a deer, but also almost looked as if it were human with some deer features. It wasn't one of us hallucinating, because when my boyfriend asked what it was they had just seen, my friend said that it was not deer. We didn't see it up close, nor did we stop to find it. My boyfriend sped up to make sure the not deer couldn't catch up to us, because something about those universe to him to the core. A not deer can't catch us going 80, right? This was in north central Kentucky. Kentucky, huh? North Kentucky. Ooh, that's interesting. I'm northwest Georgia, living at the foothills of the Appalachian Mountains. Halfway in between the Chattanooga and Atlanta, something my family takes trips to the mountains. One day up there, my cousin and I wanted to go cruising around and just taking the views. It was getting late, around 8 p.m., so we started to head back, close back to our cabin. We see a deer on the side of the road. No, yeah. All right. Slow down. Then we get close. Then as we get close to it, it walks in the road pretty close to being dead in front of us. I hit the brakes, and then it stands up and starts walking around on its back legs. We're freaking out because that's crazy. We've been out in nature with animals all our whole lives. I grew up being a minute away from the Pine Mountain, living in the lake, but I've never seen anything like it. It just looks so wrong. Its joist didn't move right, and it had arms, not front legs, and its upper half was like a human, excluding the head. We gassed it around those mountain curves and just kept going. We didn't even want to stop at the cabin because we didn't want to stop moving. We didn't want to stop. That's interesting. Very, very interesting right there. Let's see. Other stories. Bat-winged human inflicts eye trauma on North Carolina, harassed by unknown entity. Not deer sightings and encounters in Pennsylvania. There's some more sightings of not deer. Why not just go there, huh? Let's see. Here's some more stories about them. I grew up in North Carolina, and we always had deer on our property, and not deer was and deer hunting was incredibly common in my town. I definitely know people who had experience with the not deer, or the deer as they are, or the Dior, the not deer, called it. I've heard it all. that it was so human, and it had arms. It walked like a person. There was something wrong about its face. But by far the creepiest ones are the ones where you can't tell what's wrong and you can't see it anymore. The most common comment I've heard it looked at me in the eyes, and I just knew that it wasn't a deer. I got scared and I ran in. After I got back in the path, I realized that all of its limbs were its head and was on backwards. Uh, I've seen people come tearing out of the woods, hyperventilating plenty of times. I've but I've only had one experience personally. I was looking for Holly with my brother, but he ran back to the path to grab a bucket because his hands were full, and I was alone. There was a dower, maybe 20 feet away. I squatted down and got quiet because I thought it was a baby deer and I wanted to watch it. But then it stood up and I knew something was wrong. I had never been so scared in my life. My brother came running back and he saw it too. And for just a second before it ran off, then it hit me that the deer I saw had way too many eyes and its legs were just a little bit too long and maybe backwards. I recently moved to Bridgewater, Massachusetts, which has its own set of wild cryptids, but the deer don't seem to be a thing here. It didn't seem to be, huh? Interesting. By the way, folks, hit that like button for me, will you? It really helps me fight the algorithm so that more people see my content. As well as please go hit that bell and hit the part of the bell that gives you all future notifications. And please go and share this video on Twitter, Facebook, and Gab. In fact, let me go back over here to see if, not doing too bad here. Let's go look at some more cryptids. I was young when I saw it, probably around 10 years old. I remember it, and I shouldn't been able to. Most of my family lives in St. Louis, Missouri. My grandfather liked to take us bowling. He used to take this shortcut. I don't really know if it was a shortcut, if there was a road he didn't like my other grandfather. He doesn't like to drive over bridges. Either way, we took a route that led us by a wooded area. If you know the Midwest, from town you get, the more it is either untamed land or farmland. This was untamed land, tall woods, and a clearing near the road. In that clearing, there was a group of deer, not unusual. We normally saw deer that way, and my brother and I liked looking at them. One of the deer, a buck, was stood out away from the rest, a little closer to the road, a little further from the rest. Luckily, there was a distance between us and a clearing covered by some tall grass, so these deer were about 40 to 50 feet away from us. The deer was looking straight at our car, moving its head as we drove, so it could keep watching. Deer have a monocular vision, eyes on either side of the head for a wider field of view, so they look at things from the side. A deer with its nose pointed perpendicular to us is looking at you. That deer was facing us. That was deer tracking us. That deer had forward-facing eyes. That deer was a predator. That deer was not a deer. This is all I remember, and I shouldn't at all. Interesting. Very interesting. Right now, we're looking at cryptid stories. We're talking about not deer. Apparently, there are a type of cryptids that are basically a bunch of deers that either are like deer men or deer women, or basically something else. Either way, they're probably deer men. I live in the Midwest, but took college up north. One night I had visited the ER for some pain. It was there until almost 2 a.m. On my drive back, I pulled over on the side of the 2-lane highway, almost in the grass, because I was falling asleep at the wheel and needed a minute to wake up. The area I went to school in was really rural, and I'd driven about 18 to 20 miles get to the ER in the first place. Well, 20 miles ER in the first place. So I'm sitting on the pitch black highway, 10 miles from my dorm, when a deer crosses in front of my car. There were woods on one side of the highway and farmland on the other, so I figured it was just going to get something to eat. A couple of other deer crossed, about 5 of them, my headlights being the only thing that even showed me what they were. As I'm letting them pass, I noticed that one of them had legs in the back that looked broken. It made me think, oh, poor deer. Before my sleep haze cleared and I remembered that an animal with broken legs couldn't walk. I looked closer and noticed that its gait was off, walking in jerky motions. It, more looked like it was hopping than walking. The other deer weren't spooked, though, so I feared I shouldn't be until it finally passed by and I could see its body. The neck was too long. The ears were too long. The legs looked inverted, bowed almost whatever it was. It was not a deer. When the little group finally passed, I got back into the highway and raced off with everything on my body telling me that I just saw something I shouldn't have. Got to my dorm, well, in record time and basically ran across campus feeling like I'd escaped death. I never told anyone about it. I figured that since it was late, I was on painkillers and very tired that maybe I'd imagine it. But still, every time I see a deer, a real deer, body freezes thinking about what I may have seen that night. My friend, here's another story. And we're talking about, if you're wondering what we're doing right now, folks, we're talking about not deer. Apparently, there's a type of monster deer out there, a cryptid that exists. My friend and I were driving home on the highway at 2 a.m. last Thursday, July 22nd, 2021. Earlier in the night, my two other friends threw out a disclaimer regarding reckless deer that love to hit your car rather than you hitting them. Anyway, we're driving behind a tractor trailer around after hitting a red light. As we are approaching the cornfield to our left side 50 yards, there was these glowing eyes. So I said to my friend, I bet that deer is going to jump out into the road. And all I had seen at first glance was two glowing eyes. And as I'm just looking at this thing, I realized that this unknown creature is about as tall as the corn. My friend says, that's not a deer. We instantly frisked as we drove by. But seriously, I feel like I could faintly see a head, like a very small head with a huge glowing eyes that were so close together. My headlights cut the reflection of the eyes as soon as the truck in front of us proceeded through to view it. Well, legitimately, there's not to view the field. Legitimately, there was not a single animal human that could be possible explanation. I had never even knew about these cryptid things until my friend that night exclaimed that was a nut deer. Didn't know what that thing was, but that was what I had seen. Interesting, very interesting. Let's go back over this way and look at some more cryptids. We looked at nut deer for a while. Let's see about anything else. Sharp-toothed troll encounters in rural Oregon. Okay, let's look at this. All right. A pair of friends are driving alone in rural Oregon when a troll-like being with sharp teeth and a red hat crosses the road in front of them. And any idea what this is? About 20 or so years ago, I was driving down in Passon, Oregon. It is just outside my town in the foothills and was in farms all around of the night. Traffic is delivery trucks avoiding tolls. There is a little field off the road. I discovered since it's outside of town, it's perfect for stargazing, and the grass in the summer covers you. I'd bring friends up there to look at the stars and talk about deep subjects. When this incident took place, I was bringing a new friend into my field. He was the ultimate skeptic. He believed in anything. The guy just didn't believe. Unless it could be demonstrated scientifically. Of course it was. And end of story. I am a bit more flexible, so discussions with him were quite engaging and enjoyable. It was late at night, and the road was curvy, and just before reaching my field, we came around a bend, and something darted in front of my car. It was about the size of a chimpanzee, running using its front legs as if it were. When it ran in front of my car, it reared up, and I saw a glimmering mouth full of sharp teeth. Now, it wouldn't be out of the realm of possibility this was a chimp. Lived near a primate testing facility, and there have been two escapes in my lifetime. But what was just wrong, what truly broke me, was that this creature was wearing a backpack and a hat. A backpack, a pony red hat. My mind froze on that hat and short-circuited. It drove into the bushes on the other side of the road, heading into the direction of the house. I slammed my brakes and put the car in reverse. Before I could pack up, my stoic scientific friend screamed at me, "What are you doing?" To which I replied, "I'm going after it." He locked his door, leaned over and locked mine, and told me to drive. Still considering him, I asked him what he thought he had seen. I don't know, a gnome or a troll. Oh, well, that is interesting. I was satisfied enough that my friend had seen something that shocked him to his core, enough to shake his beliefs, and we drove on. We never spoke of it again. I thought of it at the time as a kobold, resembled the descriptions of kobolds in the Magic Kingdom books. It wasn't a kobold. It wasn't until many years later that I came across a Southeast Asian, some of a creature. Forgotten name of it. Anyone has a knowledge there would appreciate it, which matched exactly. The funny thing is we have heavy Asian population area, so makes sense. I don't know. Does that make sense? You have a heavy Asian population. I don't know about that. Interesting, though. Very interesting. Let's look at some more cryptids, huh? Let me go over here. I encountered a couple in the woods in Indiana. Let's see. Study finds chimps study finds that enter Planet of the Apes wrong. Well, apparently chimps can't make tools or something here. We could look at that. Why not? I guess we could look at this real quick. Let's see how long it is. No one wants to live in, no one wants dystopian, no one wants a dystopian world depicted but some appear to be inevitable. I wouldn't say that. And sooner than we think. One of those is the Planet of the Apes, a world in which apes have evolved to catch up with us and perhaps surpass humans in some ways. I doubt it. Can they? This article here pretty much doesn't really say that. Enough to so that they can clash for control of what we eventually find out is, spoiler alert for the last person who hasn't seen it, Earth. Primatologists have recently been claiming that chimpanzees are learning how to make and use stone tool, putting them in an ape equivalent of our Stone Age. However, new research suggests this never happened, and perhaps never will. Can we breathe a sigh of relief? Will Planet of the Apes back in the fiction and comedy sections? One of the first types of tools found in the archaeological record are sharp-edged stones. Tool using hominids learned to make and use these tools is still a debate. One way to study how hominids might have learned to make and use stone tools to test our closest living relatives, chimpanzees, is a study we aimed to elicit the stone tool making used by providing 11 untrained chimpanzees, most of them whom were mother-reared, housed at two different institutions with baited puzzle boxes that could only be opened with a sharp tool. That sounds like a simple, with a sharp tool, huh? Sounds like a simple test, according to the report published in the journal Open Research Europe. The project sought to validate or disprove papers and articles dating back to the 1990s, stating that great apes have been observed using tools to hunt prey, specifically tree branches, sharpened as spears. The project was led by Dr. Caldo Tennis from the Department of Early Prehistory and Culinary Ecology at the University of Tübingen, Germany. In addition to researchers in Germany and other countries, the team included 11 chimpanzees at a zoo, Norway, and a wildlife sanctuary. Who had little to no contact with humans, especially no opportunities to watch humans making tools or doing things similar to making tools. See what they're doing there? Although the chimpanzees were motivated and interested in assisting the puzzle boxes, none of the subjects in the study spontaneously made or used sharp stones. Our findings suggest that without extensive human training or demonstrations, chimpanzees cannot learn how to make or use sharp stone tools by themselves. The end result of this experiment was no stone tools. Experiment 11 frustrated and hungry chimpanzees without training from humans. They'll never learn to make them either. Does this sound like a good reason to turn off the TVs in zoos, ape sanctuaries, especially those that can pick up some improvement channels? These results are consistent with the hypothesis the ability to make and use sharp stone tools may have developed in our own lineage after the split from our last common ancestor with chimpanzees approximately, millions of years ago. The researchers conclude that tool making is an inherently human skill. In other words, Planet of the Apes will only happen if we teach the great apes human skills. That won't happen because we're already too busy teaching robots. But teaching robots. I don't think that would happen either way because apes only mimic. And I don't think robots will do it either because they really have to be self-aware, and I have my doubts that can happen. Now, as for no, but the dystopia is happening. I have my doubts that it'll happen. Well, uh, if you think some dystopias will happen, I have my doubts that will happen. Now, so let's go look at some other stuff. We looked at this. Maybe look at some more cryptids. Maybe go back over here. There's an yeah. What was it? Large flowing orb in the parlor. Let's see about this. Blackwing humanoid inflicts eye trauma. Well, Blackwing. Northern California harassed by unknown entity. Let's take a look at this. A family in Northern California moved into a house in rural foothills. They started to notice. Feel free to leave me a few chats, folks. I love to hear from you guys. Yeah. And, noises, investigated small animal carcasses, eviscerated, and small animal carcasses throughout their property. Live in, Northern California foothills. I live in the Northern California foothills. My parents and I moved into this house from the city, late 2017. Late from the city. It had been sitting empty for over a year. The day we moved in, my mother and I arrived first to clean while my father and brother drove the moving truck. Off the bat, I was uneasy. Yeah, he was right. As he moved in, he was after he moved in, he was uneasy, but I've tried to write it off. The properties felt heavy is the only way I can describe it. I've heard people describe, I've heard people describe the feeling of being washed inside their homes, but I have had that feeling anytime I stepped outside. Okay. We were going to sweep and mop the floors, dust the baseboards and window sills when I started noticing this whole granular powder all along the baseboards and the window sills. Salt? And the doorways. I immediately told my mother, and who told me not to worry about it and sweep it up. By the time I had swept it up, every room and cleaned off the window sills, I was certain it was salt and a lot of it. But fine, whatever. The people that lived here before were superstitious. Okay, I can live with that. We unpacked the truck over the next week. I was sitting in my room when the next bizarre event started happening, knocking on the windows, always quick raps that sounded like someone knocking with their knuckles. It would happen so often that on all the windows in the house, but when you would turn, no one would be there. So you'd go outside, no one would be around the house. This only escalated. My brother and I would walk the dogs over the property. They were older, small dogs who were always good-natured and calm, except for when they were outside at this new house. They would growl and puff out and get extremely agitated. They hated being outside. Then we started finding the animal carcasses. They were always small creatures, rats, toads, bats. Biggest we ever found was a raccoon. Animals had been gutted, a single deliberate line down their torso, starting at their chest and near their rear. No internal organs left. They looked practically mummified, like something had sucked the fluid and blood and organs right out of them. It was one of the most bizarre and brutal things I had ever seen. My brother would stay up late night in his room on his computer every night. He liked to game with his friends until the early morning hours. He does not spook easy, but more than one occasion, I would wake up to him shaking me awake, terrified, saying something massive on two legs was walking around outside his bedroom window, which he would have open at night. He said it would walk right up to his bedroom window and stop, and when he would look toward the sound, he could hear it scrambling away. I never saw it with my own eyes, and neither did he, but the motion lights outside would be activated every single time, leading to the woods near that back of our property. Whew. I know what we're probably thinking. All of this up, probably thinking all of this up until this point can be explained away rationally. Crazy person living in the woods, some neighbor messing with us for whatever reason. Well, that was what I told myself too, so I could sleep a little easier at night. Then the banging started. It was so loud and would sound like it was coming from everywhere at once. The walls would literally vibrate, picture frames rattling right off the walls. It was like being something massive, stronger than any crazy person was pounding on the exterior walls of the house. Always late at night and always in more places than just one place. I could never pinpoint the source directly. My brother and I would stumble out of our bedroom petrified. My mom would lead us to her room where we would stay after that. My dad would walk the property with his gun. but never found anything. No footprints, no people, nothing. Interesting, eh? This happened for probably 6 months, and every time a major event would happen, my dad would walk the perimeter with his rifle and come back with nothing. Felt like we were going insane. Then suddenly it just stopped. The mutilated animals stopped appearing. I stopped feeling like I was being watched anytime we would go outside. My dogs stopped being on edge anytime I took them out. And the property itself seemed to get lighter, like it finally took a deep breath after holding it for so long. I generally have no explanation or even a clue as to what that creature being entity was. I'm just glad it seems to have left. Interesting. As I said before, folks, feel free to leave me a few chats, and please go and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Read comics that are bad for you, okay? The T in that is THERE. As well as please go and hit that like button for me. It really helps me fight the algorithm, so more people can see my content, and my graphic novel Scumdogs comes out to you. And please go hit that bell and hit the part of the bell that gives you all future notifications. And please go share this video on Twitter, Facebook, and Gab. Now, let's go and move on to some more stuff, all right? Let's see. Have you guys hit that like button? Not doing too bad. I have so many more stories to look through. I'm not, yeah. Don't worry, folks. I'm not ending my live stream yet. Let's see. Sharp-tooth troll. What was it? A large floating orb. Real-life cryptid and hominid signs and encounters. Real life. Let's see this. 5 encounters with cryptids and humanoids by different witnesses. White-haired humanoid, strange deer, and a white hair. Wow, interesting. We live in a rural area in southwest Pennsylvania, surrounded by woods. Happened on a winter night. It was night time, but it was a full moon reflecting the snow outside. It made it pretty light out. I was walking from the barn to the house when I saw something by the small tool shed we called the sauna, because that was what it was originally intended as. I looked closer, and as it appeared to be a 3-foot tall humanoid covered in white hair and digging in the snow and beside the sauna. I watched for a minute and could also hear it digging in the snow. Then, terrified, I went inside and told my siblings we didn't go back out that night. The next day, there was a huge hole. Well, that night, huh? The next day, there was a huge hole, but no footprints. Interesting. My girlfriend has twice seen a strange deer-like creature in Spain. Deer-like. It must be a deer with a birth defect or a strange physical deformity. She described it as a deer with no neck, a normal-looking deer body with its head shrunk into its chest. We live in a small town in the country, works in the city, and has to pass through 40-plus minutes of farm fields in the tiny towns to get home. It's about 11 p.m. She was about to enter a tiny town and said that she saw the strange-looking creature standing off the road by some bushes. She first thought it was a headless deer and slammed on her brakes to get a look at it. After stopping, she could see there was a head, but it was sunken into the deer's chest, like the chest was absorbing it. After a second or so, it reared and turned away and trotted off in a really awkward way, like its knees didn't bend. It was kind of hobbling or bouncing. A month later, she saw it again about the same time in the same town on the opposite side, just standing next to the road and moving with its weird sunken head. She just said the thing was creepy as fuck. Creepy as F. And looked unsettling. She gets to write her own schedule for her job, so after that second sign, she started making sure she never closed the road she had to take. She would take and stuff. She'd take. Already had enough problems with deer jumping out. Creepy mutant deer were just too much. She is working evenings and nights again, but she has not seen this deer since before. Well, since and okay. When I was a child, I used to live in a subdivision in Northern Virginia that had an 18-hole golf. Well, Virginia that had an 18-hole golf course. Middle of all the houses, I would often go out on the golf course when golfers would leave or when golfing was highly uncommon. There was a forest in the middle of the golf course that was always eerily quiet and was generally spooky. We tended to steer deer clear of any further from the edge because of it. One day, well, yeah, stand, yeah. One day I was supposed to meet up with some of my friends at our base, which was at the edge of the forest. Uh, they said to steer clear of the. There was a forest in the middle of the golf course. We tended to steer clear of it. That's where we wanted. One day I was supposed to meet some of my friends at their base, which was at the edge of the forest, so I was making the trek along to meet them. It was probably at midday in summer. I recall there being overcast and looking like it might rain, so we knew golfers wouldn't be around. I was not too far off, and we could see the edge of the forest about 200 feet away. I was in the middle of the fairway when I stopped moving because I saw something strange out in the corner of my eye move to my right. This also about 200 feet away. Ooh, Bianca fights the zombies. Aloha, dudes. Aloha, Bianca fights the zombies. Welcome to the Scumdog's Corner. Feel free to sit down and listen to some cryptid stories. I was not too far away and could see the edge of the forest about 200 feet away. It was in the middle of the fairway when I stopped because I saw something strange out in the corner of my eye move to my right. Also, about 200 feet away, I saw something I had never seen before, nor since. I was about a huge grayish white deer with small antlers. Standing on the edge of the fairway as well as next to a large tree. I froze staring at it from afar and it stared back at me. The strange thing was that I remember about this kind was the long sound it made and what occurred after it made it. It made it. It literally sounded like whales communicating long distance, but it was extremely loud in my ears for coming from at least a few hundred feet away. Extremely frightened, I started running away, but in a few seconds of beginning my flight, I remember looking back to see if it was chasing me, but it vanished, increasing my fear, and sped away. I remember telling people this right after it happened, but nobody believed me. I think the consensus was that it was in my head. During the winter, I believe it was 2006, during home one night with my then boyfriend between Conway and Britain, Michigan, looking at maps. I assume we were en route 302. It was a very cold night with snow on the ground. We were driving through a wooded area when what appeared to be a Bigfoot crossed the road quickly in front of us. Just as the edge of the headlights, it had very wide, stocky legs and a slightly weird gait. Hard to describe. Weird gait, huh? And a slightly weird gait. I kept driving for a few moments, but one of us said something, and we agreed that we had both seen something that didn't make any sense. He wanted to turn around, so I did. We stopped at the location to find the tracks in the snow. However, I was scared whether it was actually a cryptid or a weird person in a costume. I didn't want to meet them. I was freezing, so I did another turn, and we got out of there. I thought it was a little incredible if something weird would be out there on such a very cold, windy night. Okay. That is interesting, isn't it, folks? They encountered Bigfoot. And this is supposed to be a lot of real encounters with cryptids, huh? I had a weird experience when I was 12 or so. My sister, who was a year younger, a friend who lived a block of her to the same age, and I were exploring this forest area that ringed the marshy prairie here in Iowa. We were just sitting some logs and looking out over the prairie marsh as the sun was setting, and this little figure popped up to swear to whatever powers. It was only a couple of feet high, walking through the grass with a pointy hat. The sun was setting, kind of being him or her, so I couldn't make out a lot of color, but kind of strolled for a couple of minutes. Well, we all grabbed each other hands and started for a few minutes. I was saying, "Oh God." All right. I must have been muttering disbelief because I heard a louder syllable and it froze, then ducked into the grass and was gone. We were all blown away and we still believe in gnomes. How can I not? One of the strangest experiences. It was weird, huh? Well, it was interesting though. Very interesting. Let's see, what is it? Let's see. Over here. A very bizarre name encounter, Copley Woods in Indiana. Let's take a look at this. The annuals of UFO lore are peppered with accounts of alien encounters and abduction. These mysterious entities coming for us in inscrutable reasons we may never understand. Some such cases really serve to bring on the weird with plenty of clues and details that cloak them in a thick layer of oddness and high strangeness, leaving us to wonder just what is going on. One such surreal encounter played out in a rural area of the U.S. state of Indiana back in 1983. Gone on to become a classic example of just how truly bizarre such encounters can be. Uh, it was a hot summer night on June 30th, and Debbie Jordan was going on about her usual routines and what had until then been a very ordinary, mundane evening. At the time, she was living in a rural area near the place called Copley Woods outside of Indianapolis, Indiana, along with her two young sons and parents. And on this evening, her father was off at the second shift at the automobile factory. And that night, Debbie, her mother, and two sons ordered to take out fried chicken and couldn't have been more normal, but as she wished the dishes and the grease off her hands, thinking it would begin to get weird, spiraling into a harrowing experience that would, it would be, off her hands, things would begin to get weird, spiraling into a harrowing experience that would change her life forever, she would say of what happened. I was washing the grease off my hands before I left to go to the neighbor's house to cut some more patterns out. She lived one block and over and one road behind us, so I wouldn't be far in case Mom needed to help me getting the boys to settle down. As I stood in the kitchen sink and looked aimlessly out the window, I noticed an odd light coming out of the swimming pool pump house. First of all, I knew the door should be closed because I remember wrestling with the rusty slide lock. I had been out on these just a few hours earlier, putting some more chlorine tabs in the pool floater. Well, in the floater, huh? It was getting dark, so the strange light really caught my eye. It was not like the incandescent bulb that was in there. It looked more like a fluorescent white light, and it was very bright. I pointed this out to my mother and asked for her if she wanted me to stay home. She thought it was odd, but told me not to worry about it. Would look the door, and if she needed me, she would call me in the 5 minutes it took me to get in my car and make a clear detour to the turnabout back to the house. So check on the light before I left. Light was gone, and the door to the pump house was closed. The pedestrian door to the side garage attached to the house was now open. I do not know why I didn't stop then and go back outside. I should have, but I didn't but I headed on to her neighbor's house. Debbie reached her neighbor's house without incident and called her mother to tell her she was arrived safely at this point. Her mother was calm and sounded normal. Shortly after this, practically right after hanging up, there was a phone call from her mother, who now sounded frightened and urgently implored her to come back home right away. It would only later turn out that Debbie's mother had seen a basketball-sized ball of light hovering around in the backyard, but at that time it was not clear why she was so panicked and scared, so instantly begging Debbie to come home immediately. Debbie then excused herself, apologizing to the neighbor and driving the short distance back to her home, where she found her mother cowering within and frantically looking through the window outside. Debbie says of what happened next. Once I arrived, I pulled around to the back of the house again. This time I stopped at the sunroom outside the X's door and found Mom standing there waiting for me. I walked in. I went for the shotgun Daddy had behind the trash compactor. Mom made a comment about the gun not being loaded, and I said to her that whoever was out there didn't know that I could always beat the crap out of them with it. I have to say at this point that I do not know what came over me. I am no fool, and at that time in my life I was the biggest chicken in the world. If I had known why Mom called me back that night, I would never have gone out back. I would have gone in the front door, grabbed my mom and kids, and hightailed it out of there so fast it would make your head spin. Making the whole situation even eerier and more surreal was that at the time, Debbie's mother not only had no idea why she was in a panic, but she doesn't even remember calling her daughter at this point. They both thought it was just an intruder, and so Debbie crept outside with the shotgun and approached the pump house, all ready to wave her empty gun to frighten any trespassers, but no one was there in the pump house, nor was there any sign of an intruder anywhere. The only thing out in the place was her dog cowering in her truck and growling uncontrollably. As she did her search of the yard, buildings, and garage, she was suddenly aware of the growing, burning sensation throughout her body, which she would later equate to being splashed with acid and grew grew and grew in intensity until she had the sudden undeniable urge to get out of there immediately, but that her life was in danger, she would say of what happened next. I suddenly felt as if I was on fire. I let my skin on, my body started burning. It felt like I was covered with acid, and I thought I had got to get out of here right now. I turned to run out of the pedestrian door, and that was when I was hit in the chest by something very bright and electrifying. I have never been hit by lightning, but if I could imagine that what it would feel like, I would say it was like this. I felt as if I had been punched by a huge electric fist right in the gut. Burning electrical feeling slowly moved down to my legs, to my feet, my arms, my fingertips, and around my head. Then I could feel every molecule of my body vibrating. I couldn't move, and I couldn't move because the flash was so bright. I know I could not have tolerated more than a few seconds of I couldn't tolerate more than a few seconds of this. I swear it felt as if it lasted for several minutes. I assume it couldn't have lasted more than a few seconds. I remember thinking, I'm dead. This is what it feels like to die. I was shaking, burning, and felt like it was vibrating in my very core. The brightness wore off. Then the vibrating shaking subsided, but I still couldn't move. I was able to see bits and pieces, very much like having, I could see vibrating, shaking have subsided, but I still couldn't move. I was able to see shaking and bits and pieces. But I still couldn't move. And I was very couldn't. Lost my place here. Then the vibrating, shaking subsided, but I couldn't move. I was shaking subsided, able to see bits and pieces, very much like having been flashed in the eye by a camera flash. I had big blinds. I had big spots in my eyes and my vision. I couldn't see. Some shadow and some movement in the front yard in front of me. I could now feel someone pulling on my right shoulder as if to pull me down a bit. Then I felt a steady burn sensation in my right ear, and I could hear something telling me it was unfortunate that I had to feel discomfort. Unfortunate with the pain. After this, she suddenly and inexplicably found herself outside with no idea how she had gotten there. And above her hovered a bright light about the size and shape of a basketball. The light moved up and down as if scanning her and then slowly became an oval shape before disappearing. At this moment, Debbie saw another egg-shaped object around which several humanoid figures could be seen. She explains, could see something about the size of a pool pump house, maybe 8 to 10 feet tall and shaped like an egg, not very big. As far as UFO goes, I could see she could see people in the yard. People in the yard. They were a bit very split in the yard. At the same time, they all seemed to line up and slide to the left back to its egg. It shaped things in front of me. They were smaller than me, shorter. I thought they looked like children. Bullet-shaped children, bigger in the head and narrower at the feet. I couldn't see much detail. Mostly just silhouettes. The rest of the event is still a blur after 20 years. The next thing I remember hearing someone say it's over, I suddenly remember my kids. I thought, my kids, oh my God. I immediately heard the voices say that my kids were okay. I heard the name being called and was able to move, and I turned to walk back up and lower porch steps toward the back kitchen door. With each step, I took the memory of what had just transpired, faded until the time I reached my mom at the back door. I did not remember anything after I entered the garage. I said to my mom, everything's cool, and with that, she became an anime again. It was at this she was staying there the days until she heard my voice. Debbie then went back to the neighbor's house where they told her she had been gone for 2 hours, despite the fact that to her only 15 minutes had passed. At this point, she had rather oddly felt like going for a swim in the pool, inviting the neighbor and her daughter to join her. They made their way to the pool. Things would get even stranger still, in which Debbie says. As we walked through the backyard of the swimming pool, my neighbor's daughter suddenly jumped and yelled out. She said she had stepped on something, her foot burned, and now her foot was getting numb. By the time we reached the pool, she said her foot felt numb all the way to the knee, but she could walk on it. We weren't in the pool more than 10 to 15 minutes when we all started feeling nauseated. My eyesight started getting really fuzzy, even though I had not had my head underwater. I could see halos around all around all the outside lights, and it was making me dizzy. The girls left, and I went to bed. When I woke up the next morning, I could not open my eyes. They were swollen and completely shut. My mother took me, well, yeah, mother took her to the emergency room. They in turn sent me directly to an eye specialist across the street from the ER because they didn't have anyone on call in the ER who was unable to treat something like this. This doctor was just across the street and agreed to work on me and see me that morning. He was stunned at the extent of my injury. He kept asking me if I had looked into the arc of a welder's torch or the sun. She didn't. She had not done anything like that. I was given several tubes of cream and some drops to try and heal my eyes. It took several weeks for them to fully recover, and to this day, my eyes are very sensitive to light. My vision is very far-sighted. Sometimes my eyes will still suddenly burn and turn red for no apparent reason. Fortunately, this only lasts a while. The following week after the incident, they were having a barbecue in their backyard when one of the guests noticed an 8-foot circle, a 20-foot swath of wilted dead grass coming off of it, which for some reason instilled a sense of panic to her. Mark would have proved to have some rather strange qualities, of which Debbie has said. Mark in my yard remained there for nearly 5 years. With every year, snow melted off of it. Animals would not walk on it. There were no bugs in the soil. Even when the grass finally did, it began to grow back. The grass in that place was thick, rubbery, kind of bluish green. The dandelions that grew around the mark were 3 times the size of normal ones. Sounds like a fairy ring. Tomato plants my mom had out in the pool were the size of grapefruits, but when you tried to eat them, they were so acidic on your lips, the skin on your lips would peel off. Oh, they were, wow, this really is weird, isn't it? They were so... where the vines were as big around as my forearm. The leaves on a patch of trees on the patch of trees behind the mark withered, turned brown, and fell off. The power line above the mark shorted out and blew. A transformer melted the wiring and blew out the tubes on the Heathkit radios. Well, Heathkit ham radio. Heathkit radios and stuff in the basement of the house, which was right next to the place in my yard. In addition to the strangeness with the mark in my yard, Debbie would, over the years, be plagued with inexplicable health issues, nightmares, and other odd incidents, of which she says, the aftermath of this day was a nightmare for several years. While I was shell-shocked, I sat up night watching over my children, waiting for something, but I didn't remember what it was. I was waiting for. I got sick and stayed sick for over a year. I developed life-threatening allergies, rashes, fevers, swollen glands, diarrhea, bleeding gums. Hair started falling out. Fingernails started growing thin, peeled and had horizontal ridges in them. Developed irregular heartbeats. Started having panic attacks almost daily for a long time. And the dog was out there with me that night. She had to be put to sleep about 2.5 months later. All her hair fell out in her head. And from her head down, she developed black oozing sores all over her back. Eyes got milky white, and she was obviously going deaf. Teeth all fell out and her gums bled. Well, when we took her to the vet, was shocked to see how quickly she had deteriorated. She was not that old, about 6 or 7 years, and the way she looked, you would have thought she was 20 years old. He advised us to put her down because felt she was suffering and he could not help her. Figured she was eaten up with cancer of some kind. Think of my dog and fate she met in my heart. I believe whatever she encountered that night was directly related to a timely death, and there's a part of me still worries eventually have some kind of cancer related to my experience of that night. There's nothing I can do about it right now except take good care of myself. It would also turn out that other people in the area had seen basketball-sized orbs of light fitting about the time, and it was all weird, though she reached out to UFO researcher Bud Hopkins, would conduct a thorough investigation into the incident and write of it in his best-selling, book, Intruders, The Incredible Visitation of Copley Woods, after which it would hit the public consciousness. It appeared in a 1992 CBS miniseries. Same name, 1993. Debbie's sister would write a book on it as well. Abducted, the story of the Intruders continues. Abducted. It has gone on to be one of the Intruders continues. It has gone on to be one of the most shocking and intriguing alien encounter reports in record, being investigated by other notable UFO researchers such as Linda Moulton Howe. As for her own thought on the whole affair, Debbie herself has remained rather introspective on it all. bravely embracing what happened to her, looking at it as a defining moment in her life. She has said of this, I often know what my life would have been like had I not had the experience. I can't imagine truthfully. Despite obvious trauma, I don't think I would change a thing. I have become a much stronger person. I don't give credit to the experience of the tours other than it forced me to be strong and survive and grow. Kind of like how that about me. Tour. Story of the day. You know when you can name when you can you know you can name when you can name the date when you can name it of and time of an event. It must have made quite an impression on you. June 30th, 1983. June 30th made such an impression on me that it actually crushed the old me, molding the new me. Now that's what happened. What was going on here? What forces came to this woman out in the remote location? What could they be? What did she see? What was it that she actually experienced? It's all very interesting. But I have to say, we're coming to the end of this live stream. Thank you all for joining me tonight. Please go and subscribe to my YouTube channel, Read Comics They're Bad For You. The there is misspelled, it's THERE. Make sure you're still subscribed. Hit that like button because it helps me fight the algorithm so more people will be able to see my content, and the more people that see my content means my graphic novel Scumdogs comes out all the sooner. Hit that bell and hit the part of the bell that it gives you all future notifications for my videos. Leave some comments down below. I love to hear from you guys, and please go share this video out on social media. Share it on Twitter. Share it out on Twitter and share it out on Facebook. Also, please go over and subscribe to Stitch Together Picks. Stitch Together Picks is a YouTube channel hosted by the Maniacal Cinephile. He reviews movies. You're going to love the Stitch Together Picks. It is great. He plays this character called the Maniacal Cinephile, and it is just fun as hell to watch. Go and subscribe to Stitch Together Picks, as well as go over and subscribe to Creepy Little Book. Creepy Little Book is like the Art Bell radio show. He does little videos talking about high strangeness, but he also does live streams every night. On weekdays, he live streams at 10 o'clock. On weekdays, he live streams at 10. On weekdays, he live streams at 12:30 a.m. and on weekends, he live streams at 10 o'clock p.m. He talks about aliens and ghosts, and he learns so much. You learn so much. You learn so much. Go and subscribe to Creepy Little Book. Also, go and subscribe to Robot Co-op. Robot Co-op is another great channel. All right, remember, folks, I'll be back again tomorrow around 11 o'clock p.m. for another live stream, so be sure to come back again then. I'm Chris Williams from the Scumdogs Kennel. Thank you all for joining.